The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
You're now about to witness the truth.
it's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. It is November 1st, Wednesday, November 1st, 2017. Thanks so much for joining me. I actually didn't know if I was going to make it tonight because it has been, exhausted. That's all I can say. I hit peak exhaustion over the last couple of days, and but I thankfully was able to take a day for myself and get some rest. And then I realized I've took too much sleep, and now I'm not going to be able to go to bed. So I figured since I can't go to sleep, I should do this show and get talk to you all. 857-600-0518. Had a good time last night with the with the special Halloween episode. Listen, I want you guys to go and download my Halloween episode. All right, it's only 5 minutes long. I think it's pretty damn good. Everyone who's listened to it so far seems to love it. Go check it out. I had a chance to just have some fun and be creative for the first time in a long time. All I used to do was creative stuff. I kind of moved away from that. I gave myself till I said 27. At the age of 27, I'm not going to try to do anything creative anymore. I'm just going to work regular jobs like regular people. But anyway, it's political commentary in the form of scary stories, political horror stories. So go download yesterday's episode on Spreaker.com or go to YouTube and listen to it. I want that to be a more successful episode than what it is right now. Anyway, a lot going on, a lot of craziness happening across the world. On yesterday, there was a terror attack in New York City. 8 people were killed, dozens were injured, and it has led to some pretty expected responses. And I'm trying to tread carefully here because we have to simultaneously recognize what happened, what it was, but not give voice to, or not only not give voice to the bigotry, but to tear down the bigotry that's trying to be sown. And from the White House, it used to be that we would have to fight this in the legal system. Yeah, it was always here. We've had a precedent that was been set since 9/11, where we would look at anyone of the Islamic faith, anyone with a foreign sounding name. Right. We weren't even specific with it. If they had a foreign sounding name, then they generalized it. Conservatives primarily, and there's some liberals perhaps, but primarily conservatives oversimplified it to simply being immigrants and making a fear mongering, not making a fear mongering, but fear mongering around that. And that is that's exactly what they want and need. They really want and need all of these tragedies to happen to help forward their agenda. It's sad. Think about this. And this is true. It's a sad truth. Events that hurt Americans that are not committed by white people. Right? I gotta qualify it because they said nothing. They said do not politicize this when 60 people were killed and hundreds were injured in Las Vegas. It turned out to be a white Christian guy, right? They said nothing about that. Let's not politicize it. Let's take our time. And they took days to even say anything. President Trump, so they took their time with that. But once they can qualify it into something that actually benefits their worldview and their agenda, they go headlong into it, saying some of the most draconian things. Now, forget the bigotry of it, right? The bigotry is one thing, but the action points that they want to take are authoritarianist. It is out of control. And I want to play some clips of President Obama. Yeah, we wish at this point, not Obama, but President Trump, reacting and saying what, basically what his plans are as a result of what happened yesterday. And before I play this, I have to point out again, they have not done anything about the 60 people who were killed in Las Vegas. Nothing. And yet they want faster and immediate action because this guy allegedly screamed Allah Akbar. And because of that, now it's something they can act on, which shows you, it shows you they do not have an interest or a concern in the terrorism as long as it's not Islamic terrorism. If it's Islamic terrorism, they're concerned. They want to do something about it, which lets you know they're not really concerned about your life. They just are concerned about who killed you. And so long as who killed you is somebody that they can use as a political football. Period. And as absurd of a statement as that sounds, it's the truth. That's what we're dealing with. That's who and what we're dealing with here. That's what's running. That's what's in the White House. I want you to listen to this. I'm pulling it up now. I want you to listen to President Trump as he describes what he expects to be done in the wake of this terrorist attack, which killed 8 people. And you know what? I mean, again, the reason I said we have to tread lightly is because we cannot so easily and so quickly walk past the fact that 8 people are dead. Even though conservatives are using this as a political football, and even though they aren't going to do anything about what happened in Las Vegas, they don't want to do anything about what happened in Las Vegas. They don't really care about what happened in Las Vegas because they can't use what happened in Las Vegas as a political football. But now they found somebody, oh, here's an act of terrorism that was committed by someone of the Islamic faith, someone we could probably tied to ISIS. Well, that's their worldview. They only care if it's somebody brown or somebody black or somebody Muslim who kills you. This is your president.
That was a horrible event, and we have to stop it, and we have to stop it cold. We also have to come up with punishment that's far quicker and far greater than the punishment these animals are getting right now. They'll go through court for years. At the end, there'll be who knows what happens. We need quick justice, and we need strong justice. Much quicker and much stronger than we have right now. Because what we have right now is a joke, and it's a laughing stock. And no wonder so much of this stuff takes place. And I think I can speak for plenty of other countries, too, that are in the same situation. So with that being said, we will be starting our cabinet meeting today.
Shut up. Shut up, Donald. Don't listen. Shut up. It's so funny. You know what I'm about to be a misogynist for a second and speak in some terms that are probably a form of toxic masculinity. I will preface it by that. So I probably shouldn't say it, but I'm going to say it. You know what I can't stand is a dude who's a chicken shit coward on any other day of the week, but then they find something that they could really get their manhood around. They be like, yeah, I'm gonna talk tough now. I could talk. Listen, you little, ooh, those words I can't say. I'm coming to calm myself here. I'm not gonna say that. But he's talking with a certainty, and he's talking with a level of hubris and a level of intensity that he did not even show when 600 Americans were hurt, injured, and then 50 of them killed in Las Vegas. 59 were killed in Las Vegas. And now he's all of a sudden, he can talk with a toughness and a fortitude and a certainty that he doesn't show for anything else. That's because he has only one area. Conservatives have only one area that they actually have any chutzpah, any nerve, any gumption around. And that's in the war on terror. Everything else, they mince words, they equivocate, they run around the subject, they run in circles, everything else, but he wants to talk like he's a tough guy now. Donald Trump, you is not a tough guy, bruh. You're not. You're chicken shit coward. You're an idiot on top of that, right? You're an idiot to boot. It's one thing to be a coward. It's another thing to be an idiot coward. At least if you were a coward, you could have some intelligence and use words to kind of confuse people and not really let them know that you're a coward because you're intelligent, but you're not even intelligent. And now he wants to talk about, What's horrible about what he's saying, besides just the mannerism and the toughness that he's trying to convey when conservatives are really like, they're quite, I mean, this is the same dude who skipped out on Vietnam 4 times because of his feet, right? Wait, what, bone spurs or something in his foot, right? This is the guy who, and this is just like conservatives. They have all of the nerve in the world when they're sending your kids to war, but they will not go to war themselves. They will not send their kids to war. Just like them. That's exactly how he's talking now. He's trying to talk. God forbid an actual terrorist attack occurs on his watch, because he would try to prove that he's tougher than George W. Bush, who killed hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians in Iraq and Afghanistan. Because these dudes, they actually have nothing. It's like buying a car for them, right? It's an extension of their small penises. They really look for war, and they look for these types of conflicts so that they can show their bravado when they really have nothing in between their legs to support that bravado. All right, now I'm going to cut off the toxic masculinity for a second. Cut it off. But just, you gotta call these dudes out, because they always get up and I'm gonna say this. At least John McCain had the nerve to actually go to war. He's a neocon, and he helped contribute to the destabilization of the Middle East right along with George W. Bush. So I'm not lifting him up as a hero, but at least he had the nerve to go to war. And we got a commander-in-chief here who's talking in the language that would have gotten us into war if they could put this on a foreign nation. And he was too cowardly. I mean, you had your chance to be a real American hero, Trump. Okay, sorry. Let me dial the toxic masculinity down, right? But that's something I hate. Like don't talk shit if you can't back it up. Don't run around acting like you a tough guy. Donald Trump is not a tough guy. 99% of the conservatives out there are not tough guys. That's why they have to buy all the guns in the world. That's why they do all these things that symbolize strength, because they're really scared on the inside. They're really terrified. I mean, if you think about their fear, their xenophobia, it's really a fear of inadequacy. And there's a fear that these brown people are going to come over here and take over, and brown people are going to replace them. Listen, you have no fear of being replaced if you're confident in yourself and who you are. I mean, at the core of it, they're cowards, and they're afraid that they can't compete in a world of people who don't look like them. So anyway, the core of what he's saying, put all that aside. I'm done with that part. The core of what he's saying, though, is terrifying if you actually like the Constitution, if you actually like due process, if you actually like people to not have to endure cruel and unusual punishment. I mean, listen to the core. Listen past his bravado. I'm going to take my own advice. I'm going to listen past his BS talk, right? All of his intensity, Donald Trump, you don't scare anybody, man. It's nobody. I mean, Kim Jong-un is sitting. I know, guys. I know. I shouldn't be egging him on, right? Because he's a little bitch baby, right? I shouldn't egg him on, because you get people like this and you egg them on and they're like, oh, I'm going to shoot off a nuclear weapon. But, I mean, Kim Jong-un is looking at this dude is like, and laughing. Anyway, sorry. I know. It's not my finest moment, but, Listen to what he says, though. Listen to the key of what he said.
And we have to stop it, and we have to stop it cold.
Yeah.
We also have to come up with punishment that's far quicker and far greater.
Far quicker, far greater, saying I want to get rid of due process because we don't want to take the time to actually give people a fair trial. Forget about the fact that whether or not they're American citizens or not. Forget about all that, despite the fact that some constitutional rights are extended to people who are not American citizens. Forget about all that. Let's go quicker. Right? Matter of fact, let's just drag them out into the streets and let's just execute them in the streets right now, right? Because we got to do something that's far quicker and far greater, right? Let's expose them to cruel and unusual punishment. So he's literally talking about violating the Constitution here. But to conservatives, this is like music to their ears. This is music to their ears because that's what they get off on. They get off on, they get off on loving the Constitution when it's in favor of them or when it's serving them, and just ignoring it or completely violating it when it's not serving them. Roy Moore, Alabama, thinks that the First Amendment to the Constitution is for Christians only. Right? This is quite literally saying that the Constitution is for Christians, only for us, only for this club and no one else. This is their view of the world. This is their view of America. They do not believe that people who are not like them deserve any rights or freedoms. And here the president of the United States from the White House is conveying the message that he wants to bend the Constitution to expedite or do away with due process. And, hey, we got to punish them even greater. We got to be greater. We got to be harder. Shut up, little boy. Oh, orange ass boy. Caller, you're on the air, caller. What's your name, comment, and/or question? Caller, you're live.
Oh, hi there, Ben. It's Sam from the Progressive Army. How are you? Silver Spring, Maryland.
Doing good, doing good. I'm trying to fix your audio. I only have you on one side, but go ahead and talk to the audience. What's on your mind?
Okay, so I just wanted to say that you've been knocking it out of the park, and everyone's been pretty much. But also, I think we all could use a bit more empathy and solidarity. And I think in terms of communicating with each other, I know that some progressive commentators have had their issues with Jimmy Dore. I mean, I like him. I like you. I have fond memories of meeting you. So I know you guys are all in the right place, but hell, we all need to fight to kick this orange clown to the curb and then kick Pence to the curb.
Yep, I agree with that.
Yeah, and the rest of them too. Yeah.
Okay, Sam, now I know who this is. Sam, good to talk to you, man. Good to talk to you. Go ahead and finish that thought. And go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Dale. I don't mean to waste your time. I just wanted to say that a lot more empathy. I have to say, and you had a great segment the other. I think it was last week on that. We were talking about empathy in terms of foreign policy, and I thought that was great.
Gotcha. Thanks for the call, Sam. 857-600-0518. I mean, hell, if I were able to tie that into this conversation about Trump, there's no empathy there for the. Here's another thing. Let me go to this. 857-600-0518 if you want to weigh in. Here's the other thing. This type of attitude always transcends over and spills over, right? It spills directly over to the lives of people who have nothing whatsoever to do with the madness. Before I even go there, right? Because I'm getting ready to talk about the percentages of Muslims that are peaceful, that have nothing to do with any of this, right? The billions of people who literally have absolutely nothing to do with that. But before I even do that, I have to draw the equivalence between that and and Christian terrorism that exists. But we won't recognize it as terrorism because the faces, the religion as well as the race of the Christian terrorists in the United States are in power. So we will never recognize right-wing, white nationalist, Christian-based terrorism. Dylan Roof, Timothy McVeigh, the KKK in general. We would never recognize that as the terrorism that it is. Never, ever. I mean, it doesn't matter how many people they kill. It will never be recognized as terrorism in the United States of America. And so the statement that I'm getting ready to say about how this spills over into the lives of Muslims that have nothing whatsoever to do with this, I can't say that without pointing out the fact that we will never have the conversation about moderate Christians talking to the Christian fundamentalists. No, we'll never have that conversation. You know why? Because as so long as they are... Where's that clip? I think I actually have it on this computer. I have a clip of Bill... of Bill O'Reilly, no longer on television, right? But he said he said that America is run by white Christian men. And so long as that's the baseline from which we view everything else in America, there will always be this propensity to never view white Christian terrorism by men. I mean, I think we could probably say 100% men, right? So white Christian male terrorism will never view it as terrorism because America is run by white Christian men. And what does that say? Like, the people in power can never look at themselves in the mirror and see themselves as the people who are the oppressor, nor can they see themselves as the people who are the terrorist. And that's the bottom line. Like it or not. That's exactly what it is. They will never be able to qualify it as terrorist because terrorism always has an underlying connotation of otherism, right? And terrorism always has a connotation of not only otherism, but of well, it's just another word for otherism, right? Of foreign, of strange, and really there's an underlying current. Here's the hypocrisy, right? I'm going to expose the hypocrisy here. Technically, maybe we can't call it terrorism because of this. Terrorism is usually committed by people who are not in power, because we don't have to call terrorism what the United States does. We don't call it terrorism. We just call it our Defense Department. We call it our military. We call it imperialism. We call it just going to spread democracy abroad. And so the face and the religion of white Christian men here in America has an entire military behind it, which gives it this sense of legitimacy, right? You know the conversation, one man's terrorist, another man's freedom fighter. In the United States, we have an entire terrorism machine that we spread abroad, killing millions of people abroad every single year like it's nothing, causing havoc and terror in the lives of people based on political purposes. And so there's no need to call it terrorism when it's a white Christian male here domestically, because we have terrorism that's carrying the message of white Christian men abroad, internationally. More precisely to the point of what I'm trying to say is that if they were not in power, could you imagine how they would be acting? Could you imagine how white Christian men would behave in the United States if they didn't have an entire damn military supporting them? If they didn't have an entire political system that was built around them and for them and took hundreds of years for the rest of us to get a little pittance of rights? Can you imagine how these fools, you think radical Islamic terrorism is bad? I mean, these dudes would, see how they act while they are in power. And yet, so technically, right, terrorism is a political word. It's a political propaganda word that's used to delegitimize the voices and the agenda of people who run counter to the establishment, the power structure that's currently in charge. So it's a perfect word. And so, of course, white people, white Christian men would never put this propagandistic tool word against them because it delegitimizes them. You want to delegitimize somebody in the United States, call them a terrorist, and then you no longer care about what they do and why they do. And then you never have to come to grips with the fact that the United States is the leading purveyor of terrorism across the world. And it's not just because, just for shits and giggles, shiggles, it's because they're carrying the message of white Christian men. And they're carrying it abroad. And so why would the moderate Christians in America ever say anything to the radical fundamental? Because they don't even recognize how radical and how fundamentalist our entire institutions are. This entire system is designed to serve them. So why? And even though it's designed to serve them, they still lash out as though they are. I feel like throwing this pen. They lash out as though they are the victims of white genocide. They lash out as though they lash out as though they are the ones that are being discriminated against. The majority of white Americans actually feel like white people are discriminated against in America. I mean, really, Sway? Come on, let's really think about that, right? And so even though they have an entire empire designed to lift up their voices, to lift up their concerns, to spread their political desires abroad, to spread their economic desires abroad. They have an entire empire at their disposal, yet they still have the nerve to consider themselves as the oppressed people. Now imagine if they actually were oppressed. Imagine if they had an entire military that came to their home, occupied their nation, killed their women, their children, do to them what we've done throughout history, throughout American history. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question? Caller, this is you. You're live. Oh, I hit the wrong button. Now I can hear you. Go ahead. What's your name, comment, and or question?
This is Wayne out of Virginia. How you doing, Ben?
I'm doing good, Wayne. What's on your mind?
Oh, man, I got, like I told you on Twitter yesterday, I got a little bit of a story for you. This relates back to Jimmy Dore and the segment you did from one of your recent shows.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Hopefully this don't take a while, but like I said, it's a story. Okay. A few months ago, I want to say it was in early February. This was right after Trump gave his first State of Union address or whatever. And at this point, I had started listening to, a few of Jimmy Dore's clips. And, ironically, I liked it at first, even though he hammers on the Democrats. And trust me, I'm going to get to that.
Mm-hmm. But
during this particular video, he made a good point about the wife of a soldier who was recently killed at the time. I believe this was in Yemen, I want to say.
Niger, you're talking about LaDavid Johnson?
Oh no, this was months back. This was like in, I want to say January or February, the first military strike that Trump had ordered.
Okay, got it. Go for it.
Okay, and like I said, Jimmy Dore, he had did a video on that particular incident, and what had happened was during the State of Union address, there was a part of it when they had the spotlight on the widow of a soldier who was recently slain. And the point that Jimmy Dore was making was the fact that, number one, this widow, she was all tore up, and, rightfully so, because she had lost her husband. Yeah. But the main point that he was making was the mainstream media was all of a sudden saying that Trump had became president with that speech. And, basically the whole video that he did, I agree with him. Then it was a couple of weeks after the fact, there was a report that Obama had signed up to do a speech at Wall Street, and I believe he was going to be paid $500,000 or something like that. Now, Now, even though I'm a Obama supporter, whether he was right for taking that speech or not, that's another story for another day. But the point was, when it comes to Jimmy Dore, it's like he's silent on the Republicans for some reason, because even during one of those videos, either a caller or somebody had commented on his video and said that he rarely goes after the Republicans and Trump. And then when he said this direct quote, he said, "Well, I don't believe you need to." I was like, "Hold up." I was like, hold on, man. So it's like I saw what the person was saying, because he says little to nothing about the Republicans, but when it came to that Obama speech, oh my God, he lost his mind. He was like foaming at the mouth. I'm like, dude, give it a rest. It's like, and so I just wanted to, relay that story. It's like, after a while I stopped listening to him, because it's like for some reason he let the Republicans off the hook. Yeah. But when it comes to the Democrats, he just literally goes in almost to a point where you like have to say, bro, calm down. Just take a step back for a bit,
Take a sleeping pill, which I forgot to do. Hey, Wayne, thanks for the call, man. I have insomnia, so if I don't take thanks for the call, man. If I don't take my stuff before the show, I'll be up until 2:00 in the morning. But anyway, everybody wants to talk about Jimmy Dore tonight. I guess because I called him out the other day. I guess that happens. But no. I'm going to mentally log the last two calls in my head. And if there's a way, you guys know I can go around Timbuktu and then tie it all in. If there's a way I could tie in some commentary about what you guys are talking about into what I'm talking about, I'll do that. But for now, I got to move back to what we're talking about here, which is the right-wing reaction to what happened in New York yesterday, right? Because here's the deal. All right, so here's Donald Trump this morning. He's talking about, I've just ordered on Twitter. He said, I've just ordered Homeland Security to step up our already extreme vetting program. Being politically correct is fine, but not for this. He's all hands on deck. The White House, the entire military machine of the American empire is all hands on deck up over a guy who's from Tampa. I mean, not originally, but still. I mean, this blows me away that they are so transparent. They are so transparent in their lack of concern over Las Vegas, over Charlottesville, over what happened in South Carolina, Mother Emanuel, AME. They are so silent, and they don't care that you see the glaring hypocrisy. Now, I could tie this caller in from Monday, who said that we often talk about this as though we are in a competition with a competing ideology, as though the only difference between a Republican and a Democrat is something that's, just merely differences of opinions on economic policy. But folks, we are literally talking about the difference between men and women who would happily see every Muslim in America deported, even if they were born in America. We are talking about people who don't care about your constitutional rights so long as it's something that furthers their agenda. We're not talking about a competing ideology, something that's on equal ground and equal footing with us. We're talking about people who would see the world burn in exchange for their white supremacy, in exchange for their Christian supremacy, in exchange for their patriarchy. They are literally drenched with the lust for destroying anything that doesn't conform to their, they are crusaders. This is the breed of Republicans that we're dealing with. They are crusaders. They are, and this is not hyperbole, right? They see it as the job of the United States of America to carry their Christian agenda, their white male Christian agenda throughout the world, to dominate. And domestically, they just want to make sure that their millionaire, billionaire friends don't have to pay a dime in taxes. That's their only two goals. Dominate internationally. And it's pretty simple when you think about it, right? All the rest of us, we're the ones with the complex ideas. We're the ones that are trying to figure out how do we make sure that that we can transform this world so that it can feed everybody, so we can clothe everybody, so that we can house everybody, so that we can make sure everyone has health care, so everyone has education. How do we do that? That's what we're sitting around trying to figure out. And these people, all they care about is how do we pay as little money here in the United States as possible, and how do we dominate across the world. That's a pretty simple agenda. And that's 100% what the Republican Party is about. 100%. And you cannot tell me that there's no shades of difference. There are magnitudes of order of difference between what we have in power right now and what we had in power. And people are literally sitting around. If you are a listener of mine and you're trying to find a way to equate Hillary Clinton, who is not in power, and try to equate her to Donald Trump, who is in power, and try to use that as a means of still attacking Hillary Clinton. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is in the White House talking about taking away the rights of the constitutional rights of Muslims and immigrants. Do not follow me. Do not follow this show. Unsubscribe. Be gone. Caller, you're live on the air. Let's take this next caller. What's your name, comment, and or question? Did I lose that caller? All right, let's try this one. Caller, you are live on the air. 206, you're live. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Hi, my name is Patrick Dufier. First of all, I think you have a really great channel. And I was just wondering if your everything in your mind would be perfect, how many Muslims would you kill per day?
What's your name? Patrick, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing, Patrick. If you're actually going to take time to call my show and troll my show, you got to be more creative than that, right? You're going to have to, that's some basic stuff. Like, I'm going to give you another try. I want you to do something better. I'm sure you're probably going to just devolve into some profanity or whatever, but maybe you could be creative, right? Give me something else. Try it again. You got 30 more seconds. Not even 30. You got 15 more seconds. Impress us.
All right. So if you had two eyeballs that didn't actually exist without an eyebrow, how many people would you speak English to in every single instance in the universe? Okay.
That's actually funny. Thanks. All right. That's much better. All right. 857-600. Please do me the favor of being creative at least. It made absolutely no sense, but at least he tried on the second round. 857-600. 0518. All right. Yeah, where do we go after that? And let's read a couple other things. Was that the same call 206? Who did I just get through talking to? I'll make sure I'm not get to say, yeah, no, we don't want you again. That was you. Going to clear the lines for other people who are calling in. Another thing that happened yesterday that I didn't get a chance to talk about, and we'll talk about it briefly, is the John Kelly. John Kelly talking about slavery or the Civil War was because of the lack of willingness to compromise. It's asinine. Oh, but before I do that, one last thing on New York City. So Laura Loomer is like, I mean, God, conservative women. I'm just like, goodness. When y'all think it was just the white Christian men. I know Laura Loomer is Jewish, but you think it was just the white Christian men who were out there killing people with the Klan. I mean, they had women at home who were consoling them and patting them on the back and telling them that they were doing good jobs. Laura Loomer, who is like one of the most disgusting creatures in the universe, right? It doesn't get much more disgusting than Laura Loomer, particularly because of her politics, right? She is taking pictures in New York City, wondering how dare Muslim women walk around with hijabs on after the attack on yesterday, as though an entire religion is supposed to stop practicing because of the evil done by one man. Well, in that case, then Christianity should be banned throughout the universe for all eternity. Just done. Right? Like, I mean, and if we talk about what's written in the Bible, in the Old Testament, what the Jewish nation was doing, I mean, David, I mean, come on, the entire Jericho, I mean, they were out there killing people by the thousands. You know, so it's not as though there is a religion. I mean, I don't even have to go all the way back. I mean, we could look at what's happening in the occupied state of Palestine right now. Right? There's no religion out there whose hands are clean, period. And yet she's tweeting out pictures of women in hijabs as though they're supposed to stop practicing their religion because of the the extremism of one man. And then she tried to get fancy with it and be like, try to troll Twitter, I guess. And she, at Uber and Lyft, saying that she was late to the press conference because she couldn't find an Uber or a Lyft that didn't have a Muslim driver. Well, the joke's on her because Uber has banned her for life. Laura Loomer can no longer get an Uber anywhere in the world because of her bigotry. So shout out to Uber for that. I generally don't like Uber. I prefer Lyft over Uber just because of plenty of reasons underneath. But at least they got that one right. Laura Loomer can no longer ride. What's up, Lyft? Hey, chop, Lyft. You need to get on it. Ban Laura Loomer for life. She can't ride with a Muslim. She shouldn't be able to ride with you. That's like, I mean, imagine, because I'm going to make this equivalence, even though it's incorrect. I'm going to make this analogy, even though it's correct. But because of how we view Islam and how we view Muslims in America, we actually imbue a racial connotation on it, right? So this is not apples to apples, but I'm going to do it because it's already been done so much. Imagine if she said that I don't want to ride, with a black person, right? Imagine if she said I don't want to ride with a Christian. She would have been banned a long time ago. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Hey, Ben, it's Ryan. How you doing?
Doing good, Ryan. What's on your mind?
Hey, thanks for the Halloween special podcast, the 5-minute long one. It was awesome.
Thanks, man.
Really appreciated that. But I do want to also talk about how you brought everything back full circle to the conservative point of view and what they want and how they're very simple in what they want. And they are willing to ignore 59 people dead in Las Vegas, all the first graders in Sandy Hook, to further this narrative of the white oppression and carrying the crusader thing throughout the world. To further your point, being a military veteran of Iraq, going back to when we first went into Afghanistan, the Taliban was militarily beaten within 30 days, and was ready to sue for peace. Was suing for peace, and the mission of the United States military changed to draw the Taliban back out into open conflict.
Wow,
that should just speak volumes to you
Wow.
That this is what they wanted. We had them beaten and ready to go to like Paris Peace Accords. But
Wow.
the mission changed to draw them back out and continue the fight. And here we are, as you said before on your show, about to send children who were born after 9/11 into the fight.
Yep. Thanks for the call, man. That's actually a great point, man. I actually did not know that. I mean, that blows me away that the mission changed in order to maintain a war going on over there. Man, that's wild. Caller, you're live on the air. A lot of people calling in tonight. What's your name, comment, and/or question?
Man, this is Patrick Blanc calling from Miramar, Florida.
Hey, Patrick, what's on your mind, man?
Again.
Pleasure.
And first of all, shout out to that previous caller. Great call. I think the book was called No Good Men Amongst the Living, which it really dived into how we purposely brought the Taliban back out. But anyways, I'm digressing. I just want to expand upon a point that I made a couple of shows ago when I called to talk about how we on the left don't realize we're fighting an asymmetrical war, and that we keep viewing the right or conservatism as a competing political ideology.
Yep.
And how they view us as inherently evil. And to expand upon that point, and you really hit it, I didn't talk about how we got to this point. And I think, and this is my theory, I'd like to hear yours, I think they've spread that ideology about liberalism being equating to immorality through weaponizing Christianity, primarily.
Yep. Yep.
I can't tell you. I mean, you and I are similar in the sense that we grew up in the church. I started playing in the church, and I can't tell you how many times I've heard liberal equals immorality. There wasn't a distinction.
Right.
They were one and the same.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why we can't really attack that point, this goes back to never seeing themselves as terrorists, is because in order to attack that very premise would be to attack the means in which they use to weaponize it. And I genuinely don't know how to do that without being seen as anti-Christian.
Wow.
And I don't know in this country if you can do that successfully.
Yeah.
And I honestly, usually when I call, I usually just call, get your feedback, and but I don't have an answer, and I really like to hear what you have to say off air.
Hey,
and thanks for taking my call.
I love it. I love it. Thanks for the call, man. 857 guys. The lines are blowing up. If I miss you or if I have to cut you off, it's only because I'm trying to get everybody tonight. 857-600-0518. Let me handle it. That would be my message. Because I'm still a Christian, despite. And I think the means through which I maintain my desire to be a Christian is noteworthy in and of itself. But it literally is going to require moderate Christians to talk to our radical Christians. And the difference is that we will not oversimplify the definition of radicalism to mean people who are out in the streets blowing themselves up. We mean people who will sit by and be silent as the American empire spreads this radical form of Americanism, which is a mixture between white supremacy and patriarchy and Christianity. They would spread this abroad, and they would spread it at the tip of a spear. They would spread it with a bullet. They would spread it with nuclear weapons. And we sit by and we're silent about it. If you're silent about what the United States does abroad as well as domestically, you are a radical fundamentalist to me. And so we moderate people, moderate Christians who see, and really, if I could take it out of the political jargon and discuss it in theological jargon. And this is why I'm going to do the next the weekly podcast on what it is to be a black Christian, because I can't really do it all here. But the religious doctrine really is the difference between evangelicalism and that's kind of, I'm using it out of context. It's actually broader than that. But for you, the viewer, most of you will recognize it as evangelical Christianity and liberation theology. Liberation, particularly black liberation theology. Black liberation theology and liberation theology uses the Bible to set people free here on earth from whatever the oppressor is, whether it's the empire, whether it is the United States, right? Whether it is social injustice, economic injustice, whatever has the people oppressed. Liberation theology looks at it and says we have to help those people get free here on this earth in this lifetime. We'll talk about Jesus to get you to heaven. But in this lifetime, we've got to address the systemic injustices that are rampant, particularly at the hands of the United States of America. Now, translation into political speak, moderate Christians have to talk to these radical Christians and help them get their lives together because they think they're doing something in the name of Jesus and actually they're crucifying him of flesh. Woo. I didn't mean to go there, but here we go. Calling, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Yo, what's up? This is Luke Johnson.
Luke, what's on your mind?
I just wanted to ask you, like, what's your thoughts?
Yep, I could tell, right? I only have time for one troll a night. 857-600. Guys, I have your phone numbers on the screen, by the way, right? So if you really want to play the trolling game, I can literally dox you right now and have my entire audience calling you. 206-854-27. Yeah, we can play that game if you want to. All right. But to what back to what the last caller was saying. You know, I don't think it's a thing that we have to do and worry about being anti-Christian so much as we got to do it. It has to be done. It has to be done because there's so much power wrapped around. Again, I have to emphasize this. You have no need as an individual to commit violence when you have an entire empire doing it for you. Somebody tweet that out because that's the crux of the radicalism of Americans, particularly white Christian Americans who have the luxury of appearing as though they're pious and peaceful and loving. Meanwhile, all the dirty work is being done by their government every single damn day. And the only time you really can rile them up, they stay all sweet Jesus and Holy Mary and all that good stuff. They love it. And only time you can stir them up is when you start to challenge those systems and those institutions. And you start to challenge it in a way that removes them from being the sole power. That's when you rile them up. That's when you see them come out and you'll see white Christians getting in the street, losing their damn minds. When you challenge the system that provides them the luxury of sitting around and looking as though that they're doing the work of the Lord. Meanwhile, they're doing it on the back of an empire that is destroying the lives of people all around the globe and oppressing people who aren't white Christian men domestically. And the only thing I'm concerned about with the last call, I understand your concern about sounding anti-Christian. The only thing that I actually kind of get concerned about is the idea that this is going to sound crazy to you all because you're going to be like, Ben, you're not really worried about that, are you? But there's a balance, right? There's a balance that I always try to approach my critiques and my arguments with. And I know that this next podcast that I'm going to do might be my most popular one, but it's also going to be the one that's going to be viewed as the most divisive. And because I have to call out white people, white Christians in particular, I have to call them out on a level that I've never had to call them out before. Because if you think about it, this is the crux. This is the crux of a lot of our problems. If you want to know how it is that the American government stands by and says nothing about what's happening in Israel and happening in Palestine, it's because of the grip, not only of the Israel lobby, but also the grip of Christian Zionism and dominionists here in the United States. And that is a core part and tenet of evangelical Christianity here in the United States. Right? If you look at the number one adversaries to women, to women's right to choose, to do what they want to with their bodies, it's a religious fundamentalist interpretation that does not only want to live conservatively for themselves personally, they don't want to just be pro-life for themselves personally. They want to fundamentally force everyone else to do something that they do not want to do. Which, never mind the fact that it's a violation of the Constitution, but it's also theologically wrong, right? And so it's uncomfortable to me because it's going to be viewed as this is a racist. You know, I never been care about somebody calling me racist, number one. I've never cared about that. But I'm going to have to hurt a lot of people. You know, I got a lot of white Christian friends. I've got a lot of white Christian friends who are going to have the pain of either defriending me and no longer talking to me, or actually looking in the mirror and realizing that they have been the benefactors of the greatest military in the world doing their dirty work while they get to sit back and call on the name of Jesus. And that's just internationally. Here domestically, they have had the justice system. They have had the entire legal system built off of them. They've had the economic system built to serve them and built to disenfranchise others. They've had the property rights built to serve them and disenfranchise others. They've had the tax code built to serve them and disenfranchise everybody else. And so, no, they've never had to go march in the streets to get anything because the system was built around them and for them. And then if you want to see them act out, if you want to see white Christians act out, do anything that challenges the institutions that were designed to serve them. Even if the only thing that you're doing is to bring everyone else into parity, not to bring them down, but to bring everyone else up. And you'll see too many of them lose their mind. All right. Everyone who's calling, my phone system went down maybe because I was doxing somebody. I didn't dox somebody accidentally, for real. I left the last two digits out. I gave all the other digits. I mean, there's only other, how many combinations? Nah, my audience is not going to. My audience. I don't want you to call anyone and harass them. Don't call anyone and harass them. I like trolls. They're good. I would rather, honestly, have trolls who would call with actual challenges to my, not trolls. Like, call and challenge what I'm saying. Call and disagree with me substantively. Challenge me, like literally. Make me have to think, right? I remember back in the old days when I was just getting started in Boston, I had one or two callers who actually made me have to think on my toes. And I like that challenge because I can think on my toes and I'm usually going to win. But at least do that, right? So my audience, I gave you most of the digits of that guy who was trolling us. Don't call them. Don't call them. But encourage them to call back with actual questions to challenge us. So that's all I'm going to do for tonight, everybody. Go to patreon.com/the BPD show. And if you're already a patron, thanks for being a patron. If you're not one, go ahead and become one, even if it's for $1 a month, $3 a month. I mean, come on, you as much as you hang out with me, it's kind of, you could buy me a beer, right? Buy me a beer. I don't even really drink that much anymore. You can buy me a soda. Where you from? Cleveland. So buy me a pop. Once a month. So go to patreon.com/the BPD show, become a patron, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Same time, same channel, and that's it.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
It's Ben Dixon!
If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/the BPD show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.